Welcome to the No Pants Show. I'm Susan Rook-Diatori. We are here live for a live Q&A in the No Pants Open community, and we are here with Rob Marsh, expert copywriter, brand designer, absolutely brilliant person. Rob, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. And of course, as soon as we go on camera, my nose starts to itch. And so, all that crazy stuff that happens. But I am thrilled to be here. You guys have such a great community and it's active. And it seems like the stuff that you are doing in the No Pants group is just, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of good stuff happening in there and a lot of good people doing smart things. So thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
And I've noticed that you've been in the group, you've been responding to people, you've been looking at the questions, so you know that this Q&A has generated a ton of questions. Let's start off with the very first chunk of questions.
Yeah.
Danny, Sarah, and a ton of other people want to know. They're busy, some of them are still working 9 to 5. Others are in various stages of starting their freelance business. Some people have an established business and they're looking to grow it. All of them want to know, how do they improve my copy in the least amount of time? And I don't think least amount of time, but the most effective use of time when they're busy with all kinds of things. And second part of that question, how much time should they be spending a day to improve their copy?
Yeah, these are great questions. And I'm not sure that there's a single answer for this question because it really does depend on where people are and what they know, what they already know about copy or about the story that they're telling or the offer that they're making. So I don't necessarily have like a one answer, but I will say this. If you are at a point in your business, either as a copywriter or as a business owner or doing something and you're writing your own copy and you know that you need to improve, there are a few things that you can do. And they're basic business things. So knowing who you're talking to as the audience, if you really have that dialed down, and I know there was another question about talking to different ages, and we'll answer that in a minute, but really dialing down to the one person that you're talking to, that helps because then you can just talk to them as a friend. And it's not really copywriting necessarily, or even sales. You're basically just having a conversation with that one person. And so the more specifically you know who your customer is, the better. When it comes to the words and the things that you use, I would also suggest that it's not really helpful to think about it as copywriting so much as you want to think about the words that your customer, your single customer, your client is using when they think about the problem that you solve for them. So, you don't need to worry about coming up with the right number of things for your headline. So you've got a headline, 3 mistakes you might be making. You don't need to worry about that kind of stuff. What you really need to be thinking about is, what is the problem that they have that you can solve? Do they need, more customers? Maybe you're a painter and their walls are bland and you need, you can help them spice up, the look of their home. Or, maybe, your client is a baker, and what is the problem that the baker that solves for her clients, his clients, and, how does that person think about it? If you know those words, you are so far ahead of even a lot of copywriters in the world and how they write, because you are able to talk directly to your customer. So that's maybe the first part of that question. Those are maybe ways to improve. As far as how much time you can spend, I mean, you could spend 15 hours a day, and reading all of the copywriting books, and not just copywriting books, like other books too, because anytime you're reading, it actually improves your writing, it improves your ear for hearing how people talk. So I would say as much time as you can put towards improving the skill that you need to improve. And if it's copywriting right now, then focus on copywriting. And sometimes it's not copywriting. Sometimes it's some other skill. But it really comes down to rethinking how we learn. We're not trying to get away with the least amount. It's not what's going to be on the test. All those questions that we learned in high school, is this going to be on the test? There is no test. And we actually just had this great conversation with Seth Godin, and he was saying the same thing. It's like, there is no test. So you need to be looking at it like, what are the things I need to know? What are the things that will help me get to the next step? What are the things that help me grow? And then spend some time accumulating those skills. So you could do it for 20 hours a day. You get pretty tired 20 hours a day, but, or you can do it for 15 minutes a day and just grow very slowly.
So as we look at your background, and we talked just before we went live, all of the books that you're reading right now, every single person that I have talked to who is a brilliant copywriter says they read. They read tons.
Yeah.
How much, where do you split your time and when? So for example, is your peak productivity, creative productivity in the morning? Do you read before that? Do you wait until the end of the day? Do you read over lunch? Like, break it down some specifics for people.
Yeah, it's funny that you would ask me this because I have been trying to figure out a better morning routine for myself for the last 3 or 4 months. And I just had dinner with Perry Marshall this last week, and some of people who will know Perry Marshall, he does something called Renaissance Time. And that's something that I actually started grilling him on this because it's something that I am trying to do. So my morning routine, I do exercise, and then once I've kind of got myself showered and dressed and all that stuff, I sit down and I practice this Renaissance Time thing that Perry talks about. And I will read, for me, it's scripture, but Perry talks about reading a book from before Gutenberg. So, things like scripture qualify, or if you want to read ancient literature like Homer or Beowulf or, those kinds of things. And the reason that he suggests that you do that, this pre-1500 books, is because these are the works that have stood the test of time. There are timeless lessons in fiction and in history that comes from before the 1500s. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, or, the writings of Confucius, or those kinds of things. But you start by reading just a few minutes from one of those sources because it kind of centers you on these timeless ideas. And then after I do that, I might pick up another book for 20 or 30 minutes. So I was showing you a few of the books that I've got on my to read list right now that I just got last week. But I'll spend maybe 15 or 20 minutes just kind of doing, diving into that. So I might read a chapter in one book, or yesterday I was reading about goal setting because we're coming up on January, and I'm thinking I need to sort of get my brain around how am I going to set goals, for the coming year or for, the next couple of months, those kinds of things. So I do that in the morning, and then, I work through the day. I don't usually spend too much of my time during the day reading that kind of stuff. And then in the evenings, I will also pick up books. So I don't watch a lot of TV. It's pretty rare, maybe a Sunday night that my wife and I might watch a show, unless it's college football. This season, I watch a lot on Saturdays. I watch a lot of college football, but that's kind of my one sport that I watch. It's almost over. We got one more month. So, okay.
Mine is baseball, and now that
you just ended. Yep. You're done. You're done.
And Lindsay Ladd, one of the great members of the No Pants Open community, she is a huge Red Sox fan. So
good for her. She's had a really good week.
Excited.
Yep. Yeah. But in the evenings I'll read. So I've got more books on my Kindle than I can possibly get through. And so, I'll kind of scan through, and it's the same kind of thing. It's like, what do I need to focus on? There's lots of books on copywriting. There are things there on business skills, and then oftentimes fiction. And I think reading fiction is one of those secrets that a lot of people in business don't talk about. But fiction is all about storytelling and communicating with customers, and actually connecting with customers is all about telling them stories. And so the more fiction that you read, the better you are at telling stories or understanding how stories are told. And so, I like to pick up, fiction, and I'll listen to fiction as well quite a bit on Audible. So yeah, that's kind of my reading, philosophy. But I do read a lot. I try to, it's probably 50 plus books a year between, what I listen to and what I read. And I can't imagine not spending a lot of time with books, as you can tell, behind me.
Absolutely. I had to actually stop buying books because,
it's a bad habit. Yeah. It's a bad,
absolutely.
Good habit.
So that also answers Donna's question about skills for marketing and sales. You can go to YouTube, you can read blogs. I urge people to sign up for yours. Your personal website is Brand Story Online, and you and Kira have a website called The Copywriter Club, no S, The Copywriter Club. And if you scroll down to the bottom, there's a section for resources. Huge number of books, podcasts, and it's not just copywriting books. You talk about marketing and psychology and persuasion and all of these things. So Danny, Sarah, and Donna, and other people, Cindy is joining us now. Krista is also here. Go down and check out the resources, huge amount. So
that's a really good list. And I will also say this, it's more than just reading or watching videos, right? The best way to develop your skills for marketing is doing. You just try stuff and see what happens.
How can people try stuff in the open community?
So really great question. And it really depends on what do they want to do, right? So let's say that you are a copywriter. This is what I know because I'm a copywriter. I want to write sales pages, but I've never written a sales page before. Okay. Or maybe I want to write blog posts, but I've never written content before. But I know I can do it. Maybe I was a good writer in high school or college or whatever. I want to try this out. The thing to do then is if you don't have experience yourself, working for other clients, get yourself that experience. So you go to a place like, you could just choose a product that you like. So let's say, the last book that you read, sit down and write a sales page about the last book that you read. Sell somebody on why this book was transformational for you. What's the problem that it's solved? What is the result that you got from it? Maybe, craft a testimonial or two. Or if that seems too easy because, it's a book or whatever, go to a website like ClickBank. And ClickBank, if you've ever been there, there are literally hundreds of products that people are selling as affiliates. And the whole idea is you can sign up as an affiliate there. And, if you want to sell a health supplement or you want to sell an ebook about dating, there's all kinds of crazy stuff there. Some of it is a little shady. Some of it's perfectly fine, but choose a product there and you'll find that most of them already have pre-written sales pages. And so what you can do, if you were an affiliate, you would just take that sales page, you could use that copy, put it on your website and sell. It's probably not the best way to be an affiliate, but it's kind of that basic level. What you can do is look at what they're doing and then rewrite that sales page. Craft your own version of it, maybe purchase the product, use it, figure out what it is, try to figure out what the client who's buying this product needs and create a sales page. And if you want to really take it to the next level, join as an affiliate, put some sales dollars against that sales page, put it up online, send some Google traffic or some Facebook traffic to that page and see if it's effective. And, you don't have to spend very much, a couple $100, of traffic, and maybe you'll get 2 or 3 sales. And if you sort of do that, then you can figure out what works. You maybe test a different headline or test a different ad in Facebook. And now suddenly you've got more experience than every other beginner out there. And you can do the same thing with content. So instead of, writing a sales page, think about the content that you want to write, pick a product or a subject and write the content. Like there's nobody that needs to give you permission to start. Just go out and do it and show what you can do. Now you've got a piece of content. You didn't write it for a client, but you have real content that's valuable and you've demonstrated your ability. Now you're off to the races.
So that also sounds like a really great way to sort of begin to find your niche if you're not sure. So yours is tech and health. Alyssa wants to know, how do you pick that? She enjoys marketing and technology. And she's thinking about switching over to blogging, maybe about sustainable brands, green brands. Would this be ClickBank? Would that be a great place to go and begin and look and see before setting up this huge, I'm a green blogger kind of website, which you may or may not end up keeping?
Yeah, so that would be a good place to start. I mean, we could talk about choosing a niche for literally hours. In fact, Kira and I teach that in one of our programs. We just wrote an entire newsletter about that and mailed it out to the people that are in our underground community. And there are a lot of different pieces that go into that, but the important thing to remember about a niche is nothing is permanent. And so feel free to play around. If you are interested in a subject and you think, hey, that might be a good niche to explore, something that I want to write, then go ahead and play around in there, experiment, look for a couple of clients that you might be able to create some content for. And the maybe the thing, it's always things, interests that you have, clients that are in the space. And it's also important to remember that those clients need to have money. Because you don't want to write for free. That's just not a good business model. It's not a good way to put food on the table. And so, if you're interested in something, but the clients there don't have money to spend, or they don't hire copywriters for some reason, and there are niches like that, then that's maybe not such a good niche. But yeah, it's all about exploring.
Is travel writing one of those niches?
No, I think travel writing can be a very profitable niche, but it really depends on who the client is that you're writing for. So, there are so many people who want to travel write for the person that gives you the free hotel room so that they can take a free vacation, right? And there's so many people willing to do that you're probably, unless you're the very, very best people at writing in that niche, and you're writing books, or you're the Rick Steves of that niche, you're not going to make a lot of money there. But travel writing for travel agents, for airlines, for hotels, like that can be very profitable. In fact, I know writers who do that. I even know a writer who's put together a course on how do you write content for the travel industry. So I think that it can be profitable, but you have to think through like how you're doing it and what clients you're working for, and who has the money. If you're looking at it as a way to get free vacations, you're probably not going to make a ton of money, but you might get a few free hotel rooms, and that's worth something.
And, listen, there's nothing wrong with doing things as a passion project,
Sure.
etc. But don't confuse your passion with your actual business, and run your business like a business. I think that's one of the hard things for a new entrepreneur.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, those of us who start freelancing, whether it's copywriting or design or, even programming, all those kinds of things, the reason we do that is because we're really good at that thing. But that doesn't mean that we're really good at building a business. And there are a whole bunch of business skills. I think you guys talk about this a lot in the No Pants Project. And you've got to get the basic business skills, having a niche, knowing how to get in front of the right customers, having packages, pricing, all these things that have nothing to do with writing copy or designing a web page or writing, the code for an app or whatever the thing is that we like to do. You got to get that other stuff nailed down too, to really succeed as a freelancer.
And one of the things that I just absolutely love about what you said is you can always change. Nothing is written in stone.
Yep.
So let's say you've got some basic niche. You may or may not be in that same focus 6 months from now or a year from now, but you're ready to start building a website. The website becomes your showcase, really, for your skills. Just like your website, Brand Story Online, is a showcase for your branding skills. As I was looking through and reading your website, I'm like, oh, yeah, it's very simple. It's very clear. It's very clean. The top of the banner says, I write copy that gets a response for health and tech companies. Tells me as a potential client exactly what you do, who you do it for, and what you do. Talk a little bit about how to use a website for showcasing your stuff, even if you don't have a ton of testimonials or clients.
Yeah, it's possible to run a successful business without a website, but it is so much harder because there's not a home base for everything you do. So it makes a lot of sense. And I'm a little bit embarrassed by my website. I was telling you this before because it's a little old. I'm in the process of rewriting it right now. I just had some photos taken, last month that I'm going to be doing a bit of a redesign and really refocusing even more tightly on my niche than it is today. But there are websites out there that I think are phenomenal for copywriters. And I'm going to just give you two. One is my partner, Kira Hug, kirahug.com. Go look at her website because the brand that she has and the way she shows up online, and it's very real. She's not putting on a face for her website or whatever. This is who she is. But really, really good. She writes personality-driven copy, and her personality shines there, right? Another one that I think this is the best copywriter website I've ever seen in the history of the world. I could be wrong about that, but I love this website so much. Belongs to Michal Izikowicz. I'm pretty sure it's Michaleeikwitz. I think that's it. I might have misspelled that, but you can search for her. She hasn't even been doing this for, 5-10 years. She's been a full-time copywriter for, I think, around 2-3 years. And her website is so good. It talks exactly to the customers that she is trying to appeal to, tells exactly what she does. Her packages are outlined. She makes big promises. It's so good. And when you're talking about my website, it is pretty simple, partly on purpose because my clients are generally SaaS and tech companies. So they want something relatively, traditional. They're not looking for, that online brand coach kind of vibe. They want somebody who's familiar with, conversions and, making sales and selling software. And so it is a little bit intentional what's there, but what I'm hoping will be there 3 months from now will be a nice, evolution of what's there today, and hopefully be even better than what's there now.
Cindy wants the links to the 2 websites. Cindy, I will get that and post it in the comments after the interview. But you are reading my mind, Cindy, because I'm like, oh, I'm going to go scope out those 2 websites. I've been to Kira's website before, but never Michelle's.
Yeah, Michelle's is so, it's really good. It's unfortunate. It's so good that I've seen other writers rip it off, like actually steal the copy from it or the design, and that's not okay. Obviously we're trying to inspire each other, not copy each other. But it is like I said, it's my favorite website. Every time I go there, I'm just like, oh my gosh, Michelle, I wish you should write a website for me because it's just really, really stellar. So, but yeah, again,
Anita,
you and I were talking.
I'm sorry?
I was saying, you and I were talking about before we started, like the important thing of the website is having something. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, nobody is perfect when they launch. If you saw Michelle's website 6 months ago, it's a totally different story, right? So yeah, when it comes to having a website, at least have one and then experiment and get better and better. And even Kira's website, that's not the first iteration. She's been other things before, but it takes time to really figure out who it is that you're talking to and the message that you want to put out into the world.
One of the things that I'm experiencing, and I've noticed other people are experiencing, is the balancing of the things that you have to do today and the planning for the things that you're doing today. So the 1 to 3 month project planning, and then the learning and getting better for where you want to be a year from now or 5 years from now. And I think the same can be said for websites. How much time do you spend doing the stuff that you need to do in the moment versus the learning and the deep thinking to get to where you want to be?
Yeah, too much. I do too much in the moment. And I think everybody does that. And I mean, let's be honest, we have this idea that everybody can live this balanced life. And it's just not true. People who say, the life can be balanced are not telling the truth. You can't. It's true that you can do anything you want, but you can't do everything that you want. There's just no way. And so, there are the basic needs. You've got to be able to put food on the table and pay the mortgage. And so, your daily work matters and you have to spend time getting that stuff done. And then, it's the rest of your time that you've got to balance between, family and, personal activities and then, thinking about your business. So I think it makes a lot of sense to be very purposeful about your approach to your business. So, carving out a day a week where you can, spend time on your own content, if you want to, create videos or write blogs, or if you want to, create whatever the thing is that, gets you out into the world in front of your clients. I think it doesn't even have to be 1 day a week. It could be, 2 hours on a Monday, or I think it makes a lot of sense to really carve that in and put it in your schedule so that other stuff doesn't interfere. But, there's no magic number. I'm not as good at it as I should be, or as I wish I were. If I were, my next book would be done. And as with the video series that I've been thinking about and making notes every day on, what am I going to record? And the next product for the Copywriter Club would be done. It's a long haul, and you just do a little bit at a time, and eventually, that compounds, and over time, you create a lot of good stuff, but you can't do it all right now. So I do my best, and I hope everybody else does their best too.
And what a great problem to have.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that a wealth of opportunity? Laura says that she absolutely loves that statement. It's true that you can do anything you want, but you can't do everything you want.
That's exactly right. And anybody who tells you otherwise is lying. I mean, it's just, you can't do everything, but you can do anything. So it's, yeah.
Laura has a follow-up question about the website. Did you have a solid outline for what you wanted for your website to look like or contain before you started building it? Or did you just dive in and start building it on the fly? Great question.
Yeah. Both. I know what, in fact, right. As I'm going through this rebrand, I have an idea of what I want. I have not yet sat down with the designer to say, let's design this, but let's take the Copywriter Club website as an example, because we just did a rebrand on that. And when we launched that almost 2 years ago, it was a free theme on WordPress. It was ugly. It was awful. In fact, I built it, because we needed something to host the podcast that we were creating. And I remember I built it the end of December, and I showed it to Kira, knowing it was awful, knowing that it was just temporary. And her reaction was kind of like, oh, really? This is our brand. And it was, and I knew it was bad. But the whole point wasn't to have a great website. The whole point was we needed someplace to host a podcast. And we knew that if we got traction with the podcast, that we would revisit the website. Well, it took us way too long to get to the revisited website, but what's there now, we planned. So, we sat down, we knew what pages that we wanted to have on the website. We wrote out the copy. I wrote it, Kira rewrote it. She wrote some pages, I rewrote, we did that. And then once we had that copy in place and we had an idea of what we wanted to do with our brand, then we started working with the designer. And our designer, Shauna, was awesome at really helping us take what we had and where we were and just up level. I would not recommend that the first website that you work with a designer. Get something live, figure out where you're going before you spend money working. And I know there are going to be designers watching this who, are going to say, wait a second, I can help you, in the first step. But I think if they're honest, I would say the same thing. A designer shouldn't be working with a copywriter on their first website. They need to figure out what's the story, what's the message before they go to the professional and say, okay, now that I know where I'm headed, you can really help me dial this up. And the website that we've ended up with at thecopywriterclub.com is one that we're really proud of now. And it's quirky. It's very much, it's not the typical, hey, this is serious business training kind of stuff, but it's very much in Kira's and my voice. It's very reflective of the community that we have built online, of the kinds of people who like to listen to the podcast or join our programs, that kind of thing. And it's taken us 2 years to get to that point where, we're really happy. And so, going back to that again, I've maybe wandered a little bit on the question, but it really is about focusing on getting something out there and then iterating and improving as you go.
Rob, do you have any screenshots of the original website? Did you save any?
I actually probably do. I think I did because I was thinking.
Would you do us a huge favor in your vast amount of free time? Find a screenshot.
If I don't have one, I'll jump into the Wayback Machine and I'll grab it because it was pathetically horrible. It was an awful website.
But here's the thing. The podcast is brilliant. Your brand is brilliant. You and Kira have a great blog, podcast, the resources page. I really want people in the No Pants Project open community to look and go, wow, this is where they are 2 years later. And folks, it did not take Rob and Kira 2 years to get there. It took 2 years because you were so busy doing all these other things that it took longer. You could have probably set all of this stuff inside of 6 months with the content that you were producing, but you had that happy problem of being too busy. So I would love to be able to show people and say, listen, this is what they threw up. Here's what they're doing now. Just get something, anything up there.
I would be happy to show that. And I mean, really, when we launched, we didn't know if anybody would listen to the podcast. We told a few people what we were doing, but there are a lot of podcasts out there that nobody listens to, and ours could very easily have been one of those. And so we did not want to invest thousands of dollars in building things when we didn't even have an audience or we didn't have anybody that we were talking to. And so it is really important to get something up because then you can start building that audience, and then you can figure out, what is it that they want to hear? What is it that they need to learn? What is it that we can contribute? Where can we do the most good? Where can we help? And at that point, once we had that stuff, then we knew, okay, this is how we can, create a website that's going to help meet some of those needs. And I think that's true of anybody out there. Another great case study, if you want to, use the Wayback Machine and look at Marie Forleo's old websites. Like, she has a phenomenal website, and she does business training, and she has Marie TV, and she's very polished and very professional. But go back 10 years, about 10 years, I think, is when she launched her first stuff, and it's pretty cheesy, she's the same smart person. She was doing great stuff, but she hadn't figured out, who was the target, who was the audience she was talking to, what was the real message that was going to resonate. She hadn't figured that stuff out. And look at her website as it's evolved over time, because it's gotten so good. And now you look at that and think, oh, I could never do that. Well, 10 years ago, Marie never would have imagined that she could have been where she is. And 2 years ago, Kira and I, honestly, we knew it was going to be something, but we didn't know what it was going to look like it does today. And that stuff happens over time. And I hope, 8 years from now, it's even better than it is today, but we'll see. We'll see how it all goes.
That leads into Anna's question. She's working on an offer, and she wants to know, should she write separate copy to approach each different age bracket or group, or should she do it one general group?
Yeah, I love this question. And when I saw this posted in the group, I thought, oh, this is going to be a good one, because it really talks to something that I think a lot of copywriters struggle with. And that is that, I could be mistaken, Anna, but I'm going to assume, based on what's in the question, you're thinking about demographics of your customers, which is where we all start, right? So you're the typical person who uses the product you're talking about, an anti-aging product, is generally, you would think of them as being older. It's probably an older white woman. That's not entirely, there are certainly men and women of other colors and ethnicities that will use those products, but it's probably, Gen X or baby boomer and older. It's somebody who has money to spend on these kinds of products, because they're generally not cheap, right? So those are all demographic things. And when you only look at the audience on demographic level, you look at it and say, well, there are certainly younger people and poorer people, or people in different groups that could have used this. And so, if I need to talk to somebody in their 60s, that's a different audience than somebody in their 40s and someone in their 20s. And so I would need 3 different approaches to this. But I actually think that's the wrong way to look at this, and because that's looking at not just the demographics, but the user without understanding what's the pain point that you're trying to solve with this product. So if you understand what the problem is that this product solves, then you can talk to the problem instead of the person. And if that problem is the same problem for someone in their 20s as in their 60s, then you can maybe the photos need to be a middle range if you're showing actual before and afters, those kind, maybe you need to show both on that. But if you're talking to a problem and how you solve the problem, then you can maybe get away with just having one message that works on that problem. And you're thinking about the psychographics instead of the demographics. So, how would I use this product in my life? What is the problem that it's going to solve for me? How am I going to feel when I'm using this product in the future? What is the transformation that it's going to make for me? If the sales page is about that stuff instead of the age or the audience stuff, then you can probably use one message and get a broader range, at least across those demographics. Now, if the product solves 2 problems, maybe you need 2 different approaches. But I would start with the biggest problem that you can solve effectively. Who is that person, and write to that person.
I'm thinking a great example for that is every single weight loss product. Right?
Totally.
Because they use young people, all different ethnicities, old people, medium people, women after pregnancy. I mean, they're kind of all over the map in terms of demographics, but every single person is the exact same problem.
Yeah. So, and then now the important part of that is, with weight loss, because it's all the same problem. Now you need to talk about that problem or the way you solve it in a really unique way. So in weight loss, you tend to hear people talking about, okay, we can solve that problem. This is how the mechanism works. And they'll talk about, the vitamin complex that's unique to this product, or, the exercise regimen that you can do in 12 minutes and it saves you all of the time. Or like you get into the specifics of how the product delivers the transformation and the change. Because if everybody's saying the same thing, then you got to get very specific on how you deliver that change and make it real. But that's a great example, because that problem goes across a lot of different. I mean, who doesn't need to lose weight? Everybody needs to lose weight. Or at least we tell ourselves that.
Mm-hmm. So Alex Storm wants to know about email subject lines. I think that's a perfect transition into Alex's question.
Yeah. So, and this is something I don't write a ton of email, but remind me what Alex's question was specifically. I'm scanning down.
You could either do this for email subject lines or blog posts. So, for example, on your blog, on your website, the one now, I already said I'm a baseball fan, right?
Yep. Yep.
So the title that immediately jumped out, and I love the critical lesson baseball players know, but marketers often ignore. All the energy and power is going in the wrong direction. The pitches look good. They were more than fast enough, but they were off target. I know exactly what you mean. I'm a Mets fan. So believe me, I could definitely relate to that.
Yep. Pitch has gone bad for sure. Yeah.
Yes. So how do you write something like that? Even if you're not a baseball fan, you're going to be like, sports, marketing, what?
Yeah. So, that whole idea, and I think this is an approach that a lot of people talk about in email, is all about the story, right? So I was not thinking about what power words do I need to use in the subject line to get people to watch. And there are lists of lists and lists of hundreds and hundreds of words that people say are power words that you should be using. Really, I had that experience. I needed to write the email, and that had appealed to me. I was watching this guy throw ball after ball after ball, throwing 97 miles an hour, which is just crazy fast. But not striking anybody out. And it just kind of occurred to me, oh, there's a tie-in here, because we as freelancers, most of us have to pitch, and we'll always have to pitch. At some point you may have the kind of business where it's all referral because you're so awesome, and hopefully we all get there. But, for most of us, even after 5-6 years, we still have the opportunity to pitch, right? And so I just made that connection between the story of the pitcher and the pitches that we make, in our businesses every day. And it was just kind of natural. And so, when I was writing the subject line for my email list, I just thought, well, it is a critical lesson. I guess critical is probably one of those power words that a lot of people, would suggest that we should use. But baseball's not necessarily a powerful subject. It's not going to appeal to if you're not a baseball fan, maybe my email doesn't hit home at all. But the lesson is one that will hit home. And while we're talking about email subject lines, I know a lot of people talk about how you need to raise curiosity and you need to do all these magical things with subject lines. But honestly, the most important thing that you can do for your email is to be a credible source or a friend to the person that you're sending it. So it doesn't matter, if you're, if my brother sends me an email that says, hey, I'm going to open it. If my brother sends me an email that says, the critical lesson baseball players know, but marketers often ignore, I'm going to open it. Not because it has nothing, or can I ask a favor? I'm going to open it. It has nothing to do with the subject line. It has to do with the fact that my brother sent me that, or my mom, or my good friend, right? So more important than the thing you write in the subject line is the people on your list have to see you as your brother or, a friend or somebody that they want to hear from every time. And if you do that, it almost doesn't matter what's in the subject line. Now, if you don't do that, you need good subject lines. If you're not a trusted resource, then maybe you do need curiosity to get somebody to open that. But if you've made that connection, the subject line stuff, I think you don't have to worry nearly as much about it.
Mike Shreve is the person that created the No Pants Project.
Yep.
And I have, even though I'm a member of the project, I've remained on the email list. And the reason why I've done that is because I open up all of his emails. I like reading the stories. I like reading what he has to say. I can't buy anything. There's nothing left for me to buy. So it's completely useless. I just enjoy reading the emails.
Yeah, Mike's really, really good at it. And there are others that are really good at that. Ben Settle does a really good job. I know he has an online presence that some people, find offensive, and that's totally fine too, because he finds his audience, but he does a really good job telling stories. Ryan Lee is another guy. He owns a he now sells the Rewind Bar, which is a health nutritional bar, but he also has Freedom, which is a training community. He writes a daily email, and it's always a story. It's usually about one of his kids. Almost never has anything to do with marketing, but it's so engaging that I stay on his list, even though I have nothing to buy from Ryan. And so it's all about creating that one-on-one relationship with the people on your list, or helping your client create that one-on-one relationship with the people on their list, because oftentimes we're doing this for our clients, right? If you can do that, then selling becomes easy at that point, because you basically just say, hey, I have this thing, and they trust you and they buy.
Absolutely. So I want to go back for just a second to when you were talking about the pitch. Our guest on Thursday for a special edition of the No Pants Show at 8:30 in the morning Eastern, 5:30 Pacific time.
Everybody be there.
Is a woman named Squeaky Moore. She wrote 101 pitches, mistakes I've made so you don't have to. Now, she originally wrote that for pitching Hollywood and, creative content like television shows and movies. But I read her book and I thought, wow, that's what a freelancer does every single time. And that's what changed between the pitch that Mike Shreve did and why I currently still open his emails. It's no longer about the pitch. The pitch is already done. Once you get somebody to that point, wow, you're golden.
Totally. Yeah.
And you don't even want to sell them something necessarily, because it becomes more of almost like the best kind of family or friend. Hey, I'm going to this restaurant. Do you want to go with me? Well, I don't know, but you like it. Okay, I'll go.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, when it comes right down to it, you don't really want to have to pitch anybody. You want them to trust you. You want them to know that you're a credible source. And, if they're on your list, or they're coming to your website, or they're, wherever you meet your customers, maybe it's at the coffee shop or at the library, or, maybe it's online, maybe it's offline, wherever that is. If they see you as a credible professional resource, it isn't about pitching anymore. It's, it's about solving their problems. It's about helping them. And, maybe that's the pitch really is, how can I help you?
Cindy, as a follow-up question, do you think the daily Facebook Live type of video is replacing the email?
No, I don't. I think email is the killer app of the internet. And I mean, my kids don't open their email. So maybe, the kids that are in high school someday, but I think it's so ingrained in business that it's not going to get replaced. Certainly it's not going to get replaced for a long time. And I think there are a lot of reasons for that. One, it's more permanent than chat. So chat is really good. It's really personal. And I'm certainly not saying stay away from, do chat, or messenger or whatever, your one-on-one communication is, because that's awesome too, but it's not permanent. That stuff disappears. And email isn't permanent either, but it's certainly more permanent than those kinds of discussions. We all unfortunately have emails, in our Gmail boxes from 10 years ago. If we needed to go back and find them, we could go back, right? So there's a permanence there, but so I don't think video is replacing it, but I think video is augmenting it. Meaning, if you do an email and you can push somebody, to your Facebook page where you're going to do a killer Facebook Live and share, some really good information, and they resonate with you, and you're showing up authentically, and you're teaching them something that's useful, and then the next day you can maybe push people back to that. I think they work together, and it's all media that helps you build your presence. And saying that too, you don't have to be in every media all of the time. Again, going back to that first idea we talked about, you can't do everything, but you can do some things. You can do anything. So if you're better on video, then go ahead and make that your medium. But I don't think it's a replacement at all. I think they really do work together.
Let me also just throw out something that I just recently found. It's called Pocket,
Yeah.
Pocket. I love Pocket because I can open up my email, and when there's links in the email about this study or this, whatever it is, it's usually directing to a website. I can go click, 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 click. It's all saved in Pocket. And then when I'm in line at the grocery store, say, and I've got 5 or 10 minutes, I can click on Pocket and boom, read some stuff. It's brilliant. Same
Yep.
thing with email. You can save emails to Pocket.
Yep. And there's another one that's similar, Instapaper, I think is what it's called. It does the same kind of thing. Or I guess you could even do that with just, any notes program. So if you use Evernote or whatever, but yeah, I think those kinds of tools are great for, coming back to content.
Laura has a couple follow-up questions about emails. So she wants to, she says, personally, she stops opening emails if she's getting a lot of them from someone. But then, so if she gets a whole bunch in a chunk and then nothing, then she unsubscribes. She wants to know, do you have a limit to the number of emails you send weekly or monthly?
So I think that there's a ton of discussion on this. And again, I don't think there's a right answer. So I mentioned Ben Settle before. He's kind of famous he does an email product. His whole thing is email. He emails his list twice a day, once in the morning, once at night. And if he's got a promotion, there are days when he will email his list 5 or 6 or 7 times in a single day. And do people unsubscribe when they get that? Absolutely. Some of them do. But he cultivates a relationship with the people on his list that, if you like him and if you like the way he tells stories and you agree with his worldview, you probably don't unsubscribe. You'll sit through, 2 emails a day for sure. And, as many as 6 or 7. There are other people like Ann Handley who writes to her list once every 2 weeks. And her emails are phenomenally good. Like everybody should be on Ann Handley's list. And, it's all about content, and she shares great resources once every 2 weeks. And that works for her audience. So it really depends on what does your audience expect? And you create that expectation. Ben makes it very clear. When you sign up on his list, it says, I am going to email you at least once a day and sometimes more. When you sign up for Ann's, she tells you it's once a fortnight, once every 2 weeks, you get an email. And so they've created that expectation. So going in what you're going to get. And I think as long as your audience is expecting the frequency that you're sending, that's okay. If somebody's joining a list and, they get a whole bunch at once and then none, and by the way, if they join my list, that's probably going to happen because we've spent so much time on the Copywriter Club that I have not emailed my list on Brand Story Online. I'm so sorry I'm preaching to the choir on, you guys know what to do, but you also know how you can do some things. You can do anything, but you can't do everything. And right now that's one of the everythings that I have not gotten to recently, although I feel all of that guilt. So it really is about creating that expectation. So what does your list want? How can you provide for them? Make sure you're providing quality, great stories, great content, good ideas for them, being helpful. And you'll figure out what the right frequency is based on that.
You know what just occurred to me? There are billions of people in the world. There are millions of people in your particular product area. Any business, unless you're Amazon or Netflix, you are not going to scale to that size. All you need are X number of people to make whatever you want to make.
Yep.
So do you think a mistake that somebody new makes is trying to find that mushy middle ground so they don't really go into it whole hog? They're trying too hard to be medium?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Or they're not ready for the size. I know people who have sold out seminars of 30 or 40 people at $25,000 per person who have a list of fewer than 400 people. Like, but because they are who they are, they've got the right people on the list, they can do that. Right. So, if that person tries to sell that seminar to a list of 40,000, he probably gets the same people who buy, and all those other people are wasted. So I think it's, yeah, I think we do sometimes try to be things that we aren't. And all you really, there are people who talk about the thousand true fans. All you need is 1,000 true fans to pay you, what is, if you, $100 a year is $100,000, right? So that's pretty good living for most people. So if you have 1,000 true fans who are willing to pay that much money to interface with you, then yeah, that's all you really need. And obviously if your prices are higher or lower, do the math and make that adjustment. But yeah, be authentic to who you are and what you want to build, and good things happen.
Dan B is creating a copywriting business focusing on either property or blog writing. He's created a page in order to use Facebook for advertising, but he thinks that he needs some posts in order to impress a potentially captive audience. He wants to know what's the best way to achieve this. Sharing links with supporters, writing a miniature blog. What do you suggest?
Yeah, again, there's no best way, right? There are only lots of ways, and what matches with what you want to do and with what your potential clients expect. So I'm assuming that Dan wants to write this kind of copy, on property, or wants to do blog posts in some niche. If you're going to write blog posts for clients, it's a good idea to have blog posts that you can share. So that's maybe one place to start. But the real question here is, if you wanted to write copy for people in the property business, where are the customers, the clients that you're going to have in the property business? Like, are they reading blogs? Because if they're not, you're going to have a hard time connecting with them. You're not going to, they're not going to see what you can do. So, you need to understand who your customer is and where they spend their time. Are they in Facebook groups talking about property? Maybe not. Are they offline and they're at a monthly lunch, and there's several, again, property is this really big niche. So, maybe it's property owners, or maybe it's realtors, or, maybe it's developers. I don't know. So, are they meeting offline somewhere? Like, how do you get in front of them? Are they watching videos on YouTube, and somehow you can get in front of them there? Can you create, your own channel or medium publication or something? Like, this is all really about building authority, and it's not really about the thing you do. It's about the thing you're creating. So, the deliverable, the blog post, or, the sales page isn't the thing you want to be thinking about. It's like, how do I connect with them one-on-one, so that when they say, this is the problem I have, you can say, well, I can help you solve that problem with X, Y, and Z. Maybe it's blog post, maybe it's a sales page, maybe it's a script for something, whatever that is. You
have a brilliant line that really illustrates this. Nike's products is shoes. Nike's product is shoes, but what it sells is achievement.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I came up with that, but you're right. Yeah, that's exactly. And we all need to think about that.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm selling the invisible. David Garfinkel of Copywriters Podcast. He's the one who told me about selling the invisible. That's where but I could attribute it to you.
Well, yeah, I mean, this idea has been around for a long time, and we could say this about a lot of different brands, right? FedEx, their product is, this letter that you need tomorrow is going to show up, right? But what they sell is like, they sell the fast on it. Like, the mail products show up too, but they don't sell speed, right? So there are all kinds of things, but I think we're really good at seeing this for our clients, but as freelancers, oftentimes we don't see this for ourselves. So, if a client comes to me and says, I need a website, instantly I know they probably actually don't need a website. Nobody really needs a website. What they need is somewhere to sell their product. They need sales, or they need leads, or they need something else, right? So when I'm talking to a client, it's my responsibility to try to figure out what is the thing that they really need, because that is what I need to help them. Maybe a website doesn't even solve the problem that they think a website will solve, right? So when we think about ourselves, I sell website copy. So I'm going to put that on my website, and I'm going to talk about how I deliver sales pages or wireframes, or, whatever the thing is. But again, it's not about the thing. It's about the transformation. It's about the result. It's about the pain that we solve for people. And we need to be better I need to be better as a freelancer doing that for my clients. We all do. We all need to be better.
That's incredibly high level stuff. So, someone said that they exchanged emails with the person on their contact list. When she found out that this person was new to freelancing, she said that this person was dishonest for saying that I help people in her niche because the person hasn't done that yet. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, so this is all about positioning. And again, setting yourself up as an expert. And a lot of people, I hear this a lot from the people in our group, I can't, put this on my website because I don't have any results, or, I can't claim that I can help people with transformation because I've never had any results. So I would say there's really two questions, I think, in the question that we're answering here. One is that one, how do you demonstrate your credibility and your capability? And second of all, if you are brand new, like, how do you talk about yourself to show that you do have that expertise, right? So let's talk about that first one first. Having credibility and establishing that, there are lots of different ways to do that, and it's just a matter of doing the thing, right? So you can write about your experience, you can write about the process, or you can talk about the process that you go through. Clients don't necessarily want to see results so much as they want to believe that you are capable of delivering the results. Like, if I tell you that I help increase conversions on a sales page by 60%, maybe I'm telling the truth, maybe I'm not, right? So the real question should be, well, what did you do to get that increase? Now let me talk about my process. I interview customers one-on-one, or I do a survey. I look at your analytics and what your results in Hotjar and in Spectlet and in Google Analytics, and I pull all of that information, and then I produce this, this first draft document of all of the things that your customer needs and knows. And then I match that to, like, if you can talk about your process, you can actually overcome a lot of the questions about your ability to deliver, or the fact that you don't have any results. So that's sort of that first part.
That's absolutely brilliant, Brian. And a lot of people say that's their biggest fear when they only have character testimonials. So talk about the process, use the character testimonials from coworkers, and then just start building up. We've only got a couple minutes left. Let's talk money.
Well, can I answer the second part of that question? I'll do it really quickly. Yes. It's like, how do you talk about yourself so that you sound capable, right? And you have to realize that if you have chosen a niche, it's probably because you have some experience here, either as, a fan, or you've worked in a related industry, or those kinds of things. And so you just need to think about the experience that you bring to the table and talk about that in the context of the niche, right? So that's maybe not a really helpful answer, but I'd be happy to chat with someone if they've got additional questions. Like, leave a comment in this live, and maybe I'll come back and see if I can answer that a little bit better. Okay, so now to money.
Awesome, because Rob is a member of the No Pants Project.
Yep, tag me, so I know you've got a comment there, and I will jump in and answer that.
So final question from Carolyn. She's 2 years into copywriting. Go, Carolyn. Congratulations. She's finally to the point where people are asking her fee as opposed to telling her how much the job pays. She wants to know the question of hourly rate versus job rate versus retainer rate. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so this is, again, we could go an hour on just this whole idea, right? So I hate hourly rates. I don't think that copywriters or designers or any freelancers should charge by the hour, because it's unfair to you as a freelancer who has knowledge, and the more knowledge that you get and the more competent you get, the faster you're able to deliver that, which is, they should be paying more. The better you are, the more that they should be paying, or the better the results. So I do not like hourly rates. But having said that, I think you need an hourly rate so that you understand how much you need to make, with the work that you do. So, and you can back into that by saying, okay, I want to make $100,000 a year. I want to take 4 weeks off. So divide 100,000 by 48. That means that every week I need to make something just over $2,000, right? So if I'm really effective with my hours about half the time, divide that number by 20 hours, that I'm going to work and be effective. That means that my hourly rate is somewhere in the neighborhood of $100, maybe $105. Okay. So if I have that number in the back of my mind, now what I want to do is, anytime a customer comes to me, a client comes to me and says, okay, I have this project. This is what, I need you to do. I can look at that and scope it out and say, okay, I have an idea of how much time it's going to take me. So if it's going to take me, 8 hours, I know that the very minimum I'm going to charge for that at $100 an hour is $800. But that's not where it stops, because I'm not selling my time. I'm selling my expertise. I'm selling the transformation that I'm getting for the client. And so, if they come to me and say, yeah, I've got this course or, this piece of software, and, I think that I'm going to be able to increase their conversions. And that means that every month that they use the sales page that I put together for them, they're going to make an extra, let's say $10,000 a month, and they can use that in perpetuity. Well, that's $120,000 that they're going to get over the course of the year. If I charge $800 for something that gives my client $120,000 in that kind of a gain, they're loving me. But I have totally done myself a disservice, because the value I have delivered to them is worth far more than $800. And the $800 number is based on this number that I have in the back of my head that I want to make every year. That's not the right way to price my services. So I need to look at that and say, okay, how much of that $120,000 can I legitimately capture? What is that worth to them? Are they willing to pay 10% of that? Should this be a $12,000 project? And maybe that's too much. Like, you have to understand where the client is, because some clients that is way too much. Even if you can deliver that much added value, they'll balk because they've never paid a copywriter $12,000. So you have to understand some of that as well. It's a total psychological game. It's a mind game for sure, but you're entitled to a big chunk of the value that you deliver, whatever that value is. If it's $300, then you can't charge $800 for it. No way. You can get part of that $300. If it's $1 million, then you should be able to charge a chunk of that $1 million. So you just have to be aware of where the customer is, where your client is, where the value you deliver, and how much of that can you reasonably collect. And if you really can deliver $120,000 for a customer and charge $12,000, there are a lot of customers out there that will pay for that. So get in front of those customers if you're in front of customers that won't pay for that kind of transformation.
That is absolutely brilliant, and it's a perfect place to end. Rob Marsh, thecopywriterclub.com and StoryBrand Online. Rob, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been awesome. You guys have such a great group, and I know there's a lot of people out here who are working their tails off. Some people really succeeding, some people struggling. Let me just say, it is worth the struggle. Like, stick with it. The freedom is worth it. You're going to get there. It is hard work. Like, there's no working at the beach for 2 hours a day, making millions of dollars. That's not what the freelancer life. I don't even think that's what like, you may not have to pull on pants in the morning. You still got to do the work. So like, do the work. You're going to get there. It does take time, but it's worth it. It's so worth it to be able to call the shots and do your own thing, and work with cool clients that want to work with you.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, I work in my pajamas from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, my PJs.
Awesome. Yeah, do it.
Just the bottoms. But that's the whole project. That's the whole point behind the No Pants Project. That's the point behind the name. And we love the name. Rob, thank you so much. Everybody, you've got to check out thecopywriterclub.com. Scroll down, listen to the podcast. You can multitask while doing it. I listen while I'm chopping vegetables and doing food prep. So this is
thanks for that. Yeah, thanks for that. The podcast is, it's designed for copywriters, but we've had a lot of freelancers, others who don't write copy, who say, because we talk about the business side, that it can be really valuable for them too. So yeah, jump in, try a couple of episodes. There's some really good stuff around, imposter complex and, money issues, and apply across the board. We'd love to have other listeners, but yeah, thank you so much for your time. This has been a great hour. Hopefully it's been valuable to everybody here in the community.
Thank you so much. Remember to leave comments down below. Rob will check back, tag Rob. He's in the community. Tag me. I will make sure we will get your answers. For now, thank you. Support of the No Pants Project show. And if you are listening on YouTube, hop on over to Facebook, look up No Pants Project Open Community, and click Answer the Questions and join. Thank you so much again. We will see you next time for the No Pants Show.